Today we're diving deep into the life, career, and lasting legacy of one of ancient Rome's most influential and controversial figures, Cato the Elder. Known for his unwavering moral stance, his military achievements, and his unforgettable catchphrase, "Carthage must be destroyed," Cato the Elder's story is one of discipline, duty, and the fierce defense of traditional Roman values. In this video, we'll explore his humble beginnings, his rise in Roman politics, his military exploits during the Punic Wars, his groundbreaking literary work, and the impact his values have had on Rome and indeed on history itself. So whether you're a student of history, a fan of ancient Rome, or simply curious about how one man helped shape a civilization, you're in the right place. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so you won't miss any future deep dives into the fascinating world of history. Let's journey back over 2 millennia to the Roman Republic, a time of wars, shifting alliances, and a society that prized virtue above all else. It is in this turbulent era that Marcus Porcius Cato, better known as Cato the Elder, rose to prominence as a soldier, statesman, and writer. His uncompromising nature and relentless pursuit of moral rectitude have ensured that his legacy endures to this day. Marcus Porcius Cato was born around 234 BC in the small town of Tusculum, located just a short distance from the eternal city of Rome. Unlike many of his contemporaries who hailed from aristocratic families steeped in centuries of privilege, Cato's origins were more modest. This background played a crucial role in shaping his lifelong commitment to the values of simplicity, discipline, and frugality. Growing up in a time when Rome was rapidly expanding its reach across the Mediterranean, young Cato was immersed in a society that prized military valor and civic virtue. The Roman Republic was not only a political entity but also a crucible for ideals that stressed honor, duty, and the importance of self-reliance. It was in this environment that Cato absorbed the lessons of Roman tradition, lessons that would come to define his approach to public service and personal conduct. Early on, Cato was exposed to the rigors of Roman education, which emphasized not only oratory and rhetoric, but also a deep respect for the values of his ancestors. Whether through stories of legendary heroes or the day-to-day practices of Roman civic life, Cato's formative years were steeped in the idea that moral strength and simplicity were the cornerstones of a prosperous society. His early experiences, whether in the modest household of Tusculum or amidst the bustling energy of a rising Rome, forged a man who was determined to champion the traditional virtues that many of his peers were beginning to question. It's important to remember that the era in which Cato grew up was one of transformation. Rome was transitioning from a city-state into a burgeoning power that would eventually span continents. In such dynamic times, many sought luxury and innovation. Yet Cato remained steadfast, advocating for a return to the austerity and simplicity of Rome's early days, a stance that would define his later career in both politics and literature. As Rome's ambitions grew, so did the demands on its citizens to serve in the military. For Cato, military service was not just a duty, it was an opportunity to prove that true strength came from discipline and sacrifice. Cato's early military career saw him taking part in several campaigns during the period of the Punic Wars, a series of conflicts between Rome and Carthage that would determine the fate of the Western Mediterranean. One of the most enduring legacies of Cato's military involvement was his uncompromising stance towards Carthage. His famous refrain, "Carthago delenda est," or "Carthage must be destroyed," was more than just rhetoric. It encapsulated his belief that Rome's security depended on eliminating any potential threat entirely. Every time he spoke, he would hammer home this message, a reflection of his broader worldview that left no room for compromise when it came to the safety and moral integrity of the Republic. Cato's insistence on this aggressive policy toward Carthage resonated with many Romans who feared that a resurgent Carthage could once again challenge Rome's supremacy. Yet it also sparked controversy. Some of his contemporaries argued that such extremism could lead Rome into unnecessary and protracted conflict. Despite these debates, Cato's resolve never wavered, and his stance on Carthage became one of the defining aspects of his public persona. After his military service, Cato transitioned to the political arena with the same intensity that had marked his time on the battlefield. His rise was meteoric. Through a combination of personal merit, discipline, and an unyielding commitment to traditional values, he earned the trust and respect of many Roman citizens. His military background lent him an air of authority, and soon he found himself holding some of the highest offices in the Republic. Cato's tenure in public office was marked by a number of important roles, most notably his service as consul and later as censor. As consul, he was responsible for guiding Rome through some turbulent times, always insisting on policies that reinforced Roman traditions and moral rectitude. But it was his role as censor where Cato truly left his mark. The office of censor in Rome was one of immense power, tasked with maintaining the moral fabric of the state. The censor could oversee the conduct of public officials, revise the Senate rolls, and even impose severe penalties on those deemed unworthy of holding public trust. In his capacity as censor, Cato was notorious for his stringent and sometimes ruthless enforcement of moral standards. He believed that the decline of Rome was directly linked to the erosion of traditional virtues. His reformist zeal led him to expel senators and other influential figures from public life if he felt they were compromising the ideals of the Republic. While many admired his commitment to virtue, others viewed his actions as overly harsh and inflexible. Cato's political career, especially his time as censor, cemented his reputation as a guardian of Roman values. In a society where corruption and decadence were increasingly prevalent, Cato's unwavering dedication to upholding moral standards earned him both fierce supporters and determined detractors. His legacy as a man who would not bend under pressure is one of the reasons why, even centuries later, his name is synonymous with integrity and steadfastness. Beyond his achievements on the battlefield and in the political arena, Cato the Elder was also a man of letters, a writer who believed that practical knowledge and moral instruction were as vital as military might. His most famous work, De Agricultura, on agriculture, holds the distinction of being the earliest surviving work of Latin prose. In this treatise, Cato did not merely offer advice on farming. He provided a window into the agrarian practices and values that underpinned the Roman way of life. De Agricultura is more than just a manual for managing a farm. It is a celebration of the virtues of hard work, self-reliance, and the simple life, a life that was, in Cato's eyes, the backbone of Roman society. The text is filled with practical advice on everything from crop rotation to animal husbandry, yet it also carries a deeper message: that the moral and economic health of Rome depended on the cultivation of the land and the maintenance of traditional values. For Cato, agriculture was not only an economic activity, it was a way of life that embodied the discipline and virtue that he believed all Romans should aspire to. In an era when many in Rome were seduced by the luxuries of urban life and the influence of Greek culture, Cato's emphasis on farming was a call to return to a simpler, more virtuous existence. He saw the rural life as one of integrity and hard work, qualities that were essential for the survival and prosperity of the Republic. Although much of Cato's literary output has been lost to time, De Agricultura has survived as a testament to his pragmatic approach to life. The work provides us with invaluable insights into the daily practices of Roman agriculture, as well as the cultural and ethical values that defined an era. It reminds us that behind the grand narratives of conquest and political maneuvering, The strength of Rome lay in the soil, cultivated by hardworking citizens who upheld the ideals of discipline, frugality, and practicality. Cato's writing also reveals a deep-seated belief in education and the dissemination of practical knowledge. By sharing his expertise on agriculture, he was, in effect, teaching Romans how to lead a life that was both virtuous and self-sustaining. His work laid the foundation for later agricultural treatises and influenced the way subsequent generations thought about the connection between land, economy, and morality. If there is one aspect of Cato the Elder's legacy that has sparked as much discussion as his military and literary achievements, it is his uncompromising moral stance. Cato was a staunch traditionalist who believed that Rome's greatness was rooted in the virtues of its forefathers: discipline, simplicity, and an unwavering commitment to duty. In his eyes, any deviation from these ideals was a direct threat to the Republic itself. Cato's moral rigor was evident in every facet of his life. Whether he was speaking in the Senate or writing about farming techniques, his words were imbued with a sense of purpose and a call to return to the basics of Roman virtue. As censor, he did not hesitate to take drastic measures against those he considered morally corrupt. His relentless purging of the Senate roll and his efforts to enforce strict standards of public conduct were driven by a deep-seated belief that Rome was losing its way. However, this very rigidity also made him a polarizing figure. To his supporters, Cato was a necessary bulwark against the creeping influence of luxury, decadence, and foreign ideas, especially those coming from the Hellenistic world. They saw him as the embodiment of the old Roman spirit, a living reminder that the Republic's strength lay in its traditions and in the simple virtues of its people. To his critics, though, Cato's uncompromising attitude was nothing short of oppressive. They argued that his harsh measures stifled progress and alienated those who might otherwise have contributed to Rome's evolution. In a rapidly changing world, many felt that Rome needed to embrace innovation and adapt to new cultural influences. Cato's rigid adherence to tradition, they contended, was an impediment to growth and a source of unnecessary conflict within the political sphere. But regardless of these controversies, it is precisely this intensity and unwillingness to compromise that have kept Cato's memory alive through the centuries. His insistence on moral integrity and his belief that public life should be governed by timeless virtues have inspired countless generations, not only in Rome but in later societies grappling with the challenges of modernization and moral decay. Indeed, even today, when we think about leadership and integrity, the figure of Cato the Elder looms large as a symbol of what it means to put principle before popularity and duty before personal gain. Cato the Elder passed away in 149 BC, but his legacy has not faded with time. Instead, his life's work has continued to influence the cultural, political, and even literary landscapes of the Western world. In many ways, Cato became a symbol, a touchstone for the values of simplicity, hard work, and moral integrity that many later leaders aspired to emulate. One of the most striking aspects of Cato's legacy is how his ideas about public virtue and personal responsibility resonated throughout Roman history. Long after his death, later statesmen and military leaders would invoke his example when faced with the challenges of maintaining civic virtue in an increasingly complex society. His famous refrain, "Carthage must be destroyed," for instance, came to represent not only a military strategy, but also a broader commitment to leaving no stone unturned in the pursuit of Rome's safety and honor. Beyond the realm of politics and military strategy, Cato's influence extended into literature and education. De Agricultura remained a reference point for generations of writers and thinkers who saw in it not just practical advice for farming, but a philosophy of life, a belief that the health of the state depended on the simplicity and virtue of its people. His work was read, commented upon, and imitated throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, influencing agricultural practices, moral thought, and even the development of Latin prose. In more recent times, Cato's example has sparked debates about the balance between tradition and progress. In today's fast-paced world, where rapid change is often celebrated, his steadfast commitment to age-old values serves as a counterpoint, a reminder that sometimes the strength of a society lies in its adherence to enduring principles rather than fleeting trends. This question is as relevant today as it was in ancient Rome. Cato's life challenges us to consider what we value most in our own societies. Is it the pursuit of innovation at any cost, or the preservation of time-tested principles that have guided us through centuries of history? In this way, Cato the Elder's legacy continues to be a source of inspiration and debate, influencing not only historians, but also anyone who cares about the moral and cultural direction of their community. As we draw this exploration of Cato the Elder's life to a close, it's clear that his legacy is as complex as it is enduring. He was a man who bridged the worlds of military valor, rigorous political reform, and thoughtful literature. Through his life, we see a portrait of a leader who refused to compromise on his ideals, a guardian of tradition in a time of profound change. Cato's story reminds us that history is rarely black and white. His uncompromising stance on morality and public service earned him both admiration and criticism. Yet, whether one views him as a paragon of virtue or as a relic of a bygone era, there is no denying the impact he had on the Roman Republic and the lessons his life continues to offer us today. In a modern context, his example invites us to reflect on our own values. How do we define integrity in leadership? Can the rigorous discipline of the past be adapted to address today's challenges? These are questions that each of us must answer for ourselves, and in that sense, Cato's legacy lives on, challenging us to strive for excellence, to uphold our principles, and to always consider the cost of compromise. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Cato the Elder. If you found his story as compelling as we do, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What aspect of Cato's character resonates with you, and how might his steadfast dedication to virtue serve as a lesson for us today?